Good morning, everybody. You sexy thing. What's happening? It is Wednesday morning, cliffcentral.com, and we are here to look after you, keep you happy, keep you company, and hopefully make your day that much better right from the start. Yes. I was at the office with Mbulelo and Lebang just yesterday. Feels like I've seen too much of you two already for a week.
Wowza. Wowza.
How do you feel about that?
I'm just warming up. I'm warming up to seeing such good-looking people more than often. Here I am in a good spirits, complimenting you guys every time I see you, and this is how you repay me. This is how you really feel.
Well,
okay.
You see, now you've made me feel bad, but unfortunately, there are two things about that statement that I have a problem with. Number one, you are lying about being around good-looking people this morning, and both Mbulelo and I know it. We can tell when we're being schmoozed. And second of all, nobody, I mean, there's just really nobody on earth that you wake up at 5 a.m. and go, it's great to be up this early to be with you. And of course, it gets better around 6 and gets even better around 7, but 5?
If you've been like away from people for as long as I have, this is nice. This is refreshing. It's giving me a whole new look on life. I think I can actually wake up this early every day. I considered it. I was like, maybe I can do this every day. And I was like, okay, whoa, hold that thought. I'll get back to that. But I'm genuinely happy to see you guys, man. How you guys doing?
Okay, well, I like that. Thank you, Lebang. Now we're good. You have been super busy, and your new show took off last week. How's all that going?
It's going good. I'm just getting into the groove of things, of like figuring everything out. You know, I'm finally able to just like say what I've always wanted to say without any like restrictions and any like constraints. So that's like the real nice part. And I'm just excited to like really connect with, you know, people and help people and heal and just chat and unpack. And I'm really, really excited, man. I think it's gonna do wonders. Thursdays, 11 to 12.
Yes, I actually got an email from someone yesterday, Donna, who listens to us. She said, just remind me when Lebang's show is, because I feel like I might have missed it already. But no, don't worry. It's tomorrow at 11. So make sure you don't miss that. All right. So first thing, I've got to bring this up because it's one of those things that people do. And I don't think that the people who are doing this right now are doing it for bullshit reasons. But I've got two friends and they're doing a 48-hour fast this weekend. So they're not eating anything for 2 whole days, 2 whole nights. They're not going to put anything into their bodies at all. And then I think they can drink water. That's it. They can only have water. And they're pretty fit people. I mean, they're in good shape. They eat well normally. I think they're both vegetarians or whatever. So there's not some kind of trend or thing that they're on, but there are a lot of people who do this stuff because it's bullshit, right? There are a lot of people who do it because they want to like get a pat in the back and be told how cool they are, and ooh, look at the discipline you have for a whole 48 hours. Ooh, you know. But these two are doing it, and I think it's quite cool if you do it with the right intention, don't you?
Before you chop them down, those on the app, people will notice there's something on the app. We are working on that. Our technicians are currently working on that, and we will ensure that that's back up. So yeah, please carry on. The vegans are saving the world.
Yeah. So on our app, there's a problem.
Yes, but we're working on it. We are fervently working.
Let me do the proper announcement. Here we go.
We understand that currently the app is not working in optimal and perfect way. We will be attending to this as clearly and as quickly as we can, and we ask you for your patience and for your understanding during this very difficult time for our engineers and technicians. We're on it, and we promise we will be back shortly.
Got to do it properly, otherwise people don't know. They're making it. That
was actually pretty good. Like, I don't know how you did that quickly, but that was impressive.
I'm gonna do it.
All right. Maybe if you don't mind trying to restart the Comrex there, Gareth, from your side, and we'll take it from there.
Restart the whole thing.
Well, the Comrex. I mean, we don't have to restart the show. Just the Comrex.
Okay, well, let me just redo this then, because everything's fine on my side. I'm gonna we are letting you in behind the fourth wall, everybody.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
We're now letting you see how our show takes place. I was thinking this morning, I took one day off when I did that trip to the game reserve in, what was it, April? But otherwise, I think we haven't missed a single show this year. And the same goes for last year with lockdown starting and everything. I'm kind of proud of that. I like that we haven't let our audience down, Got some great feedback, though, from somebody yesterday. And he had lots of constructive criticism about where we're going wrong. And I really appreciate that stuff. If I can see it comes from a good place. Like I've grown up sufficiently that it's not, it used to just irritate me that people were, I saw it as a correction, and I saw it as people were unhappy and they didn't like the show. But this guy just put it so beautifully that it was impossible for me to get cross. And he's like, well, some of your guest hosts have been quite shit. So I was like, and then he says, that there are some things about the show that he really loves, but there's some things that are a bit too much. And it's constantly evolving is the whole point. We're always adding things and taking things away. And there's never going to be a point where everyone is perfectly happy with the show, including me. There's going to be a stage where I'm more happy than I'm unhappy. And then there'll be stages where I'm like, got to get off this thing because I think I'm tired and bored. But mostly, we will be figuring out these things along the way. It's like it's a feedback process as well, and we do like feedback. So let us know. And by the way, we do know about the app. We're busy sorting that out now if you've just joined in on the stream. All right, so Lebang Khosana is here, as she is as a regular feature now on the show, and Mbulelo and I. And we had to look after you this morning. We've got lots of cool stuff coming up today, by the way. We're going to be talking to Sean Sanders from Revix. We'll also speak to an ex-army soldier who was in Iraq and Afghanistan. And this guy is really, really interesting. We've been talking a lot about Afghanistan and Iraq. So I have to tell you about all the cool stories this guy has, and he'll tell you himself. That's the best part of it. We'll also be speaking to Alex from Contro. Do you remember a while ago we said that there's this new business and they supply birth control and they supply medicine to help guys who can't get a hard on. And we thought, you know what? This is the perfect place for us to talk about these things without being childish and stupid about them. Well, I can't guarantee that, actually. We may be childish.
About that, no, we cannot confirm nor deny, but look, hey, we'll still have the conversation.
and we will talk to Alex, but we'll also speak to Dr. Shamista, who's the expert in this field, and hopefully Dr. Shamista will be able to answer our questions about birth control and what exactly the options are. There are so many women in this country who want to know what to do, but maybe they don't know what to do, and maybe they've been told bad information. So get a doctor on, and she's the expert in this field, and she will be able to help us figure it out. So,
and there's so many men as well who want to know what's going on, because it's a two-way thing, lest we forget, Gareth. So I think it's going to be a great conversation.
I mean, most of the women in this country are not getting pregnant because they are irresponsible, but because so often in societies like ours, which are hugely patriarchal, the man is who decides today we're going to have sex or we're not going to, or we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And the woman's like, can I just, no, too late. It's done.
Yeah.
We know about all these horrible situations where you've got like schoolgirls who are, basically being forced into sex by teachers and things. I mean, there's atrocious shit happening. So
it's horrible. It's horrible.
And let's not leave Jesus out, because we know, especially if you're Catholic, what they think of prophylactics. So that is a huge part. We mustn't, like we always go to just the patriarchal thing. Jesus must be important here, that he's also in the mix for let's make more babies.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Listen, it's a very interesting discussion. It's not one that most people are comfortable having, but here we don't mind.
Yeah.
All right, so Lebang, the headdress, give me the down low on that. Looks very good.
The headdress, oh, why thank you. This is something called umkhele. It's actually a traditional Zulu headgear, of which I am nowhere near being Zulu. My Zulu, in fact, it sucks. It's at like 0.00. I actually got an A for Zulu, but that's like high school stuff. So I think this morning why I'm wearing it is just kind of like just to just show my people that, look, one band, one sound. You know, I don't want this tribalism thing to go on like it has been in the past couple of days. There's this new kettle brand that's come out, and it's called Zuluish. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. It's only $350. Whoop whoop. Anything for my people. And then I'm seeing my fellow brothers and sisters on some, I'll never buy that. I'm Twana. I'll never buy that. I'm Betty. I'll never buy that. And I'm like, why are we doing this? So I guess like why I'm feeling encouraged to wear my Mbulelo attire this morning is just to, like, one band, one sounded out. Like, I hate to see my brothers and sisters tearing each other down just because I may not speak your language so fluently. It doesn't mean, you know, we are not all proudly South African. It doesn't mean that we're not all proudly brown, you know? So
what is this thing that happens quietly in the background in South Africa? And it raised its head during those, you know, those riots and protests that we had in KZN about a month ago.
Yeah,
you know, there's this thing that happens. And, you know, I try not to get, I don't bring it up on purpose because I know what happens is people go, oh, it's a bit of a distraction from, you know, the real politics of the country and the fact that we've got politicians all over who are manipulating our differences to make us angry with each other. But I can't help noticing, and I don't think anyone is completely oblivious to the fact that there's a strong flow of tribalism that happens, and it comes out, it rears its ugly head at the least expected moments. And it strikes me as very strange because, you know, during apartheid, mostly with some exceptions, mostly all the black people of South Africa rallied together against a common enemy, which was the old regime. And they stood together and they put their tribal differences aside. But it seems like when there's nothing else to fight about, we'll find something. And sometimes that thing is tribalism.
You know, I hate to agree with you, Gareth, but that's just ultimately the truth. You know, we sort of come from a time where we haven't really been, you know, built to believe in ourselves as a people. And so why would I all of a sudden believe in somebody, you know, next to me if I can't even believe in myself? You know, you latch on to, you know, whatever you can. So that's why you see the Zulu nation in inverted commas going against, you know, the Tswanas, and the Tswanas going against the Bedis, the Xhosas. Let me not even start. It's just, it's so sad. And it starts in the household. I mean, I grew up in a household where I was told, no, Xhosa girls are hectic. Stay away from Xhosa girls.
Oh, that's true. No, but that is true.
Hey, that's your guys' experience. That's your experience. But every time you say that, and every time you believe that, what are you ultimately letting out into the universe that is against this unity that we ultimately should be getting to? Sure, it's just a stereotype. It's just a statement. But think about the long term, you know, within the household. Like, no, don't talk to babies. Babies are this, that. Like, it's all fun and games on the timeline, and I see it, and, you know, but what are we actually creating? What's the culture we're building?
This kettle, which is called Zuluish. Okay, it's a local. Okay, it was made as a South African product. It's affordable. It's good quality stuff. Yeah. And they're selling it with a little bit of a local flair to it. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing that most of us want to support. And you're telling me that what happened on social media is people started saying, oh, is this kettle only for Zulus? And like they got all petty and childish about it. Is that what you're saying?
As expected, Gareth, you know how they can be, you know, the ministers of social media. And a lot of them went as far as unpacking the business model of Zuluish. Like, oh, it's not really manufactured in South Africa. It's from China. So they will definitely not support it. And it's crazy because how many products are actually from China that we support? So we're currently just we're just going through a phase, man, where it's like, I'm going to bash you so much because I don't want to see you win. And I just want us to get over that and to start supporting each other. And therefore, Zuluish, I will be buying your kettle, bro. Like, let me at least start here. And hopefully I can inspire and encourage my fellow brown brothers and sisters, man.
So I read a really interesting book a couple of years ago about this tribalism thing. And, you know, in South Africa, we think this is so unique to us. Like, if you go back to let's use an empire we'll all understand is the British Empire. So for those who understand that there is a north-south divide today. I mean, it's not a South African thing. It's not exclusive here. I did a 6-month trip to South America when I was younger, and it was so crazy to me how being in Bolivia and being in Chile, they cannot stand the sight of one another, and it's palpable. It's like it's palpable. I was wearing a Bolivian football shirt in my favorite place in the world probably is Santiago, Chile, and when I was there, it's like the eyes, and I was asking my mate what's going on, but I can feel that what this elicits in people. So it's not that unique here, and it's a good reminder that like people always think, oh, we're so sophisticated because we have MP3 players.
I don't think we'll ever be over this stuff, but no, it's just it's such a dumb thing to fight about. By the way, I just looked at this kettle now. It's actually sexy as hell. I'm going to put a picture of it up here. It's a very nice looking piece of equipment.
Look at that. Come on. They even put in some nice carrot cake things in the back. I mean, I'm finna buy that.
So I'm giving them a plug this morning. Good for them. And the worst thing you can do with these social media justice warriors is to apologize to them or to kowtow to their bullshit. You must just carry on. Never say sorry. Be you. Be proud of who you are. I'm almost like in the mood to just get the people who are behind this product on the show and give them free advertising, just to give a middle finger to the people on Twitter. That's how I feel about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. There's, as I said, quite a lot to do today, and quite a lot to get into, and we've got a busy show for you this Wednesday. So I hope you're up and you're ready and you're at 'em. It's so far very pleasant this week. I keep talking about this cold front, but I'm holding thumbs and crossing my fingers that it's not going to happen, because it's my birthday tomorrow, and I'd rather not. Yeah, I'd rather not go into a new year with the coldest day of winter hitting right on my birthday. So let's see what happens. Not that it makes any difference, of course.
It doesn't. I didn't want to say it, but it does. It's just going to be another day. You're still going to be a preeminent figure in broadcasting in African history for the last 25 years.
Yeah, that's all.
You're still going to be brilliant. Don't worry about it. You're still rocking, Gareth. You're still rocking.
We're speaking of great products. We've got to just talk about Kanye West for a little bit. We had we had Kim Jade on Monday, and she was talking about Yeezys, and she was talking about her shoe collection in Collectomania. And I've got such an obsession with sneakers too. I don't like Yeezys, but I like sneakers in general. I'm very particular about the kind of look that I like for me, but I get it. I totally understand it. And this guy, whether you like Kanye West or not, and many people have lots of reasons not to like him. I mean, he's a crazy human being. He really does live on the border of insanity and genius. And whether you're into all of his stuff or only some of his stuff, you got to admit, like, as a creative man and a person who's just making new things that didn't exist before he came to planet Earth, that's something admirable.
Definitely.
And I hear now his Donda vest has just sold for 300,000 Rand.
Oh no, people will buy anything, is the point. Like, Donda isn't even out. Let's just start there. Donda is his new album, which was supposed to come out 2-3 weeks ago. It's still not out. He hosted a listening session in like an arena, in the Mercedes-Benz arena in the States, and he filled it up. He hadn't released a single song, but he had sold out every single seat. After that, he decided he's going to live in the stadium. And while living in the stadium, he's going to build like a recording studio. It's literally the size of a jail cell. You can check this out. He just put a microphone in there, keyboard, and he was just making music from there on this tiny little mattress. And now, after selling his Donda vest for 300,000 Rand, he's decided to rebuild his childhood home in the center of this arena. So what Kanye West is doing in terms of like borderline crazy and genius, you're absolutely spot on. Like, people love to see everything that he does because he's not living in the same world as us. He's literally somewhere else all the time.
What a clever guy. Obviously nutcase, but clever guy. And so apparently Lloyd Banks, there was a towel at a concert in 2004 that you caught.
Yes,
it was G Unit. So you caught this towel. You were in the crowd, and I've often wondered what happens with these things that these artists throw into the crowd. Because I've never been in the crowd when they've thrown anything, and I've never caught anything in the crowd. So I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm like a dog who would be chasing a car, you know, what are you going to do?
It's such a rush.
You caught this towel back in 2004, and what did you do with the damn thing?
I literally did not wash it for months. I was so chuffed with myself. And yes, it was sweaty, but that was Lloyd Banks' sweat. And I was this 14-year-old girl. That was my second concert ever. I was at the Dome. I was seeing G Unit. 50 Cent was right in front of me. So when Lloyd Banks went, and I went, I was like, that was just like so much fun. And then my mom washed it. And then I was like, well, now it's just a towel. No,
so did you throw it away eventually, or do you not know?
I had no use for it. It just kind of like, shriveled, dissolved into the rest of the towels in the household. But for that moment where I knew that was the one, like it was a crisp white, you can see it was on their rider, like 50 fresh white towels, because we didn't have towels like that in the house. It was lovely. And I went around telling everybody that, yeah, I caught the towel. If we had social media back then, oh my word, I would have trended, bro. Like I was like knee deep in that. But it was fun. And when you're young, you like these sorts of things. I can't picture myself doing that now. I have no interest in being at the front of a concert, jumping around, catching things. But back then it was cool.
You got old shame. Speaking of concerts, I saw Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones died of COVID yesterday in hospital in the UK. Now, I saw that he was sick because I follow the Rolling Stones on social media. And I'm not even a big Rolling Stones fan, but I think that they're such a machine. They've been going since my parents were kids. And Mick Jagger is this unbelievable icon, this force of nature. And so is Keith Richards. I mean, God, let's not even talk about Mick. Like Keith Richards, when everyone else is dead, will still be crawling around on Earth. And Charlie Watts was their drummer. Very, very talented guy. Apparently the nicest human being. I mean, everybody who'd ever dealt with the Stones or interviewed them said that Charlie was like the heart and soul of that band. And if you've been with someone for as long as they'd all been together, I wonder if it hurts as much as like losing your husband or wife, because those guys were touring for months at a time all over the world. They saw more of each other than they probably did of their husbands and wives, and well, in this case, just wives and kids. And it's got to really burn, because we all talk about friendship, and I think often about the most important relationships in my life and the people I see the most. Or if you just go through your phone, like the people you call the most. And I'm sure that Mick and Keith and Charlie, those three must have spoken to each other every day, or at least every week, which is more than you can say for a lot of people. It's got to burn so sore when you don't have that person in your life anymore. And also the band is going to carry on, right? Now they've got to supposedly find another drummer, but all of that's still far in the future. It's incredible. He died at 80 years old. 80, he was still drumming in a rock band. God, that's a good way to go. I would be okay with going at 80 if I'd been in the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, no, that's not too bad.
Think about, like, I feel old sometimes, but like Charlie Watts was double my age almost.
And he's living harder. He lived harder than the three of us combined. That's crazy. And they come from an era when they were like the term friendship wasn't like, I like your picture, or they were like friends, like I'm with you all the damn time. So it must definitely like burn a lot differently. But when you live a life that long and that strong, you're leaving behind some really, really strong, stuff, some great memories. So yeah, may so rest in peace, man.
And it's so unique what their relationship is, is most of us tragically, and I'd say, Gareth, you've probably been closer to this, is that they have changed millions, tens of millions of people's lives together. I don't care who you are. Very few of us will ever get to that moment, relationship songs, breakup songs, or whatever their songs would represent from the Stones for you. They did that together, and they can't ignore what they've done. Is no matter whether they loved each other or not, my God, just for the respect. When you lose somebody you respect, you don't have to love them, but my God, heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Hey, it's got to
Michael makes the point, bands who stay together as long as them are closer than blood. I think that's true.
Yeah.
How many marriages do you know that last in excess of 40 years? 40 years is a huge amount of time. I mean,
Lifetime.
this band had been together since the 1960s.
Sure.
So that's 60 years of them, pretty much from their teens, maybe more than 60 years. I'm not sure exactly what the dates are, but that's longer than most of the marriages I've ever encountered. It's unbelievable, right?
Jeez. Shout out the Stones.
Yeah.
And oh no, Gareth, is that a sneeze?
Corona. Yeah.
Oh no.
So Greg,
Not on your birthday. Imagine that.
it would be terrible. Greg, who works with us at Cliff Central, Greg's kind of in charge of everything, I suppose, is the way to explain it. We're so bad at titles. Like, we're still trying to figure out what Lebang's title is at Cliff Central. For you and me, it's easy in Mbulelo. We've got shows, and for you as well, Lebang. But that's not the only thing that you're doing now. Have we decided what your job title is? Greg's is kind of like, he's sort of the MD, general manager, station manager. What's your title?
We're like floating. Yeah, Greg is sick, but we love him still. The title thing is tricky. Like, we're floating. One day we're like, that's the one, that's it. But as long as like creative something is in there, I think that's the agreement that Rena and I came together to. Is it's like creative guru, because I just like love everything so much that's happening at Cliff Central, and I just want to be a part of everything. So that's where we're at. Like, oh, what are you guys doing? And there's my 2 cents, putting in my little spice of creativity. So that's the vibe.
Are we warm to the idea of creative guru? Because I like that's different.
We are, yeah.
Some of these companies overthink it, and then they have these long titles, and you don't actually know what the people do. The whole reason to have a job title, and really, I mean, who even has business cards anymore? But the reason to have a job title is so that people know that they're talking to the right person. That's really all. Like, I suppose I'm, for all intents and purposes, I'm the CEO, but I don't know what that means. And some people spend their whole lives trying to be a CEO, and now I have been for 7 years. I don't call myself that, and frankly, it doesn't mean a damn thing to me. But I know it means a lot to some other people. If they're dealing with a CEO, then they're dealing with an important person. Big fat deal, sure.
The worst of them is these people called doctors, right? And there was a stage where my mom wanted me to call her. I said, get the hell out of here. No, go start saying, get the hell out of here. I don't know, fix my leg. I just saw elbow.
This is interesting stuff. Well, she is actually a doctor. Now, I don't have any problem calling a medical doctor a doctor. But if you're a doctor of philosophy or literature, or please, I mean, nobody should be calling. No, really, nobody should be calling you doctor. A PhD is not the same as a medical doctor. An MD, MBCHD, whatever you want to call it. Those people, when they go, is there a doctor on the plane? Because someone is having a heart attack. You got some fucking philosophy doctor who gets up at the back of the plane like, I'm here. Hi, I can help. No, you can't. You're a philosophy doctor. Now,
let people enjoy things, man.
No, but it's different. You can't. We've got to be very careful that word doctor, because it's used in emergencies. So it's different to, if you're a master of philosophy or whatever, and someone says, "Oh, what's your degree?" "Oh, no, I've got a master's in philosophy." That's great, and I don't mock philosophers or anyone else in the humanities, but it's all good and well to be a doctor of engineering, but that doesn't mean you can repair a person with a heart attack. And I think we should only address doctors, medical doctors, by the term doctor, whatever it is. Otherwise, you just keep that shit to yourself, because it's not helpful in the real world, not practical in the real world. Some academic qualifications are not interesting. They're really not.
That's true. But I also, doctors do get way too much credit in the scientific field. Biology is not that hard. Like, idiots like me could do biology. It's not that hard. Doctors are in the middle of intelligence. So they're in the middle.
Nonsense. Wow. You get people who are right at the top of that, like, brain surgeons and ophthalmic surgeons and anesthetists and people like that who are really, really smart people. I mean, those people are one small mistake and everything shuts down. That's the end of you.
Yeah, but let's not bash.
We're not talking about your GP here. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with a GP. They're great. They're useful. They're the most important doctors in most of our lives. But some of these specialist doctors in Mbulelo are not average intelligence. That's bullshit. They have to know lots of stuff, and they're a very superior intelligence. I'll give credit.
I'll tell you what, go and speak to particle physicists and what they think of doctors. I used to love popping over there and see what they think of the medical guys.
But I mean, Mbulelo, come on. I mean, what are you talking about here? A particle physicist is not really practically helpful in the real world. It's all good and well that they know about quarks and neutrinos and, you know, positrons and muons and leptons and all of these things. That's great. Don't get me wrong. I find that stuff interesting. But, you know, it's almost like average people use particle physicists and string theoreticians to make themselves sound clever. These are not people who have a practical application in our day-to-day lives. Of course, they build incredible machines and cyclotrons, and they split the atom, and then they split the parts of the atom, and that's fascinating. But you could say the same about, you know, someone who builds bridges, except that the person who builds bridges is actually practically doing things for the rest of us. Sorry, it's just not even comparable.
I just don't think doctors are that smart, but sure, fair enough.
Okay, I will never say that doctors aren't smart. Like, sure, there's levels, you know, there's like VIP, then there's VVIP, but like even entry-level doctors have their role to play, and I'll never bash that as a career path. There's a lot of people that want to do that, so let's, you know.
Also, if you bash them, Lebang, then one day they're going to be the one that you go to, and they're going to go, I remember this bitch.
Yeah. Exactly. Like
Mbulelo's going to be on one of his 200,000 kilometer runs, and he's going to collapse because his fucking heart bursts or something. And then the doctor's going to drive past and go, "Oh, hang on, I know that guy. That's Mbulelo Tinta. He could just carry on.
Yeah, it'll be okay." And then they'll keep it moving. You don't want that energy, bro. You don't want that energy. You know, I've actually had the same GP my entire life. I actually just realized.
Really?
Yeah. Really? Yeah. I'm actually very lucky. I need to say hello to him. It's been a while, but he's like the only GP that I've ever gone to in my 31 years is the same person.
That's amazing.
If anything happens to him, I would be crushed. Why did I think of that? Anyway?
Those relationships really matter. You only realize once they're gone. You know, we think about, oh, well, you know, my doctor, he's on all of your, I mean, I don't think there's anyone whose doctor isn't on their phone, right? Like he's there under doctor on my phone.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of GPs, but then I'm very, very old compared to you. And I'm sad because I have to find a new dentist. My dentist died a couple of weeks ago, and I've got to now go and start the hunt for a new dentist. And what I liked about this one is she was so gentle. She was great with kids. And I remember when I was like a teenager, she was, or not, maybe a little bit older than that, but she's always been really sweet about it. And I've hated the dentist from an early age because it's just a scary experience for many people. It's not just me. And I never enjoy the experience except afterwards when you come out of there and your teeth are like fantastically clean and you know you're good for a couple of months. That's always a nice feeling. But she was such a sweet person, and she would, you know, like if you winced in pain because she, you know, hit some nerve or something, she would go, "Oh, sorry." Such a sweet woman. I'm very sad that I have to find a new dentist now. God knows where I'm going to start.
I was about to say, like, do you get recommendations? Are you going to check online? Are you going to just check the closest one to where you live? There's just so many variables now.
And that's so interesting. So sorry, it's so interesting to me. Like, I've never had the concept of a family doctor. Like, for me, I'm just like, oh, I live where I live. I want a doctor.
Yeah, but you have had I know
you are a unique.
When you were still a rural Limpopo boy, you used to have your own family sangoma.
There you go. There you go.
Maybe it's a South African thing. I don't think so though. I think people develop
a lot of people have family doctors, and I'm always like, I never say anything. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? But I didn't know that it meant so much to people, and it's because I've never had an ailing or a health crisis. You know what I mean? I've never had like a proper crisis.
Mbulelo, don't get me wrong here. It's not like I have socialized with my doctor ever. We've never had a drink together or Like, I've invited my doctor for dinner or anything, but you do. They know a lot about you. They're the people you go to when you're in any kind of physical distress. And I think it's good to have a relationship, even if it's just a professional, like friendly relationship. But I like that. I wouldn't want to go to a strange doctor every time. And for many people, that is the case. I mean, if you go to state hospitals, for example, whoever's on schedule that day is who you see. So it's a privilege to be able to have a family doctor. But I think that relationship matters. Maybe it's just
definitely
me.
I mean, you have to start from scratch all the time and like figure out the vibes and the energies. When you go to your family doctor, they literally know everything. They know how you are. They'll know that Mbulelo doesn't want to talk a lot, so I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm just going to chill here, be professional, do my job. I'll see him next time I see him. You kind of the icebreaker, all of that fluff is done. But I completely understand. Imagine having to go to a different doctor every single time. What if it's, that already just sounds like, and someone like me, like I don't need to know you to already just start talking. How are you? How you doing? Blah, blah. So, imagine all the time. Now, it just sounds a bit chaotic for me. So it's been, and I completely agree with you guys. It's definitely a privilege to have a family doctor who knows everything about you and everything about your family. And they they understand everything that's happened. So when you get there one day and it's like, oh, geez, this and this is happening, they sort of get why it could happen. It makes life a lot simpler. And I really wish that, healthcare in this country was just more affordable so that we can, more of us can just have family doctors.
Well, I mean, we if our government gets their way, it'll be Cuban doctors that don't even speak English to us. So then we're going to be in trouble. But
sure.
All right, Chris says, and I didn't see this, and I feel like an idiot that I might have missed something really cool. There was apparently a meteor shower over Pretoria yesterday.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was hectic. Well, I didn't see it with my naked eye, but I saw videos and I was like, is this something out of a movie? We're in Pretoria. I need to call my Atteridgeville people to confirm, like somebody needs to, but it happened.
Because it's my birthday tomorrow, I'll open up and admit this to you. It's my relatives from the other planets that are coming to join me for my party. I needed to come and land here, so we disguised it as a meteor shower. It's like
classic.
Thank you for that clarity.
Classic alien birthday.
Please, will someone just tell all the people in the U.S. Secret Service that to stop worrying? They already know about this. We've had our discussions with them. We've had our meetings with my alien family, and it's not a big deal. Just move on.
This is funny, Gareth. I've got friends that are truly under the impression that white people are aliens. I'm happy to talk about this another day.
No, sure. We'll get into it, and I'll confirm all of those suspicions. Make sure that they're listening on that day, and I'll go along with it. We'll get them completely strung along. Dr. Robin says, I don't pretend to be more than what I am, but give us doctors a little bit of credit. I've studied hard. I work hard. I care. I know there are dodgy doctors, but not all of us are psychos. Well, that's true for any profession, Robin. You don't need to stand up for yourself. And screw Mbulelo. He's a monster.
No, hold on. I didn't say they were self.
There's no meaningful human relationships, so don't worry about him.
Yeah, that's true. Don't worry, doctor. I mean, they are incredibly selfless in their act. That's separate to being intelligent.
Well, some. There are shit doctors. Dogozo says, I'm due to go and have my wisdom teeth taken out next week, Monday. Shit, that's horrible. I'm sorry, Dogozo. I've postponed it for 2 weeks already. I'm so scared. I had mine out probably my early 20s. It's a horrible post-operation experience. You don't feel anything while you're in, but afterwards it's difficult for about a day and a half, and then it gets better very quickly. But good luck. You don't want to keep those wisdom teeth in. Trust me.
Yeah.
Headaches. You end up with other dental problems. You have all kinds of issues that can come from that. Rather get them out and just go. Doggos, just go and do it. It's horrible, but you have to do it. Michael says, Mbulelo, you first have to have a family before you have a family doctor. Wait, bro, it's coming.
Yikes.
If God is real, let me just stay single and fit until I'm 80. Let me live the dream life.
And we'll see about that.
Probably not. I'll probably get married and be miserable by 45.
Basitsana says, breaking news, the JG Zuma Foundation has called for donations to help pay his legal fees. Actually,
hey,
I got a WhatsApp. You have no idea what kind of WhatsApp groups I'm on, right? I got a WhatsApp on one of my groups from people raising money for the JG Zuma Foundation. So I think I'll pass on this one if you don't mind. All right, a couple of headlines. Let's take a look at what's going on in the world, because people are going to know what's happening. And the first thing is the Charlie Watts story from the Rolling Stones. He died at 80 years old. We spoke about that earlier. Huge loss to rock and roll, and a huge loss to the Rolling Stones and to fans, the millions and millions of fans there are all over the world who just love that band. And especially, as Lebang and Mbulelo and I were saying just now, especially condolences to the other Stones, because this is like as close as you can get to another human being who's not blood.
Yeah.
It must be very tough. Don't panic and get back to work, said the Taliban. This is... you got to love these guys, right? The Taliban...
What a movie! We are living in a movie! Oh.
But isn't this great? Isn't this great practical advice? I wish more governments. I know that these guys have only been back in government for about a week, but this is the most sensible thing that any government in the world could say right now. I mean, you look at what insanity is happening in parts of North America, Australia, New Zealand. There are countries that are still locked down, tougher than you can imagine, when no one can leave, like no one can arrive, no one can do normal things. Everybody's housebound. They're in a bubble. Taliban says, and you know what? They're right. They say, get back to work and help run the country once all these crazy foreigners have left. That's what they've said. They actually used the term crazy foreigners. Like thousands of others working for the outgoing Western-backed administration, swept aside by the Islamist militants' lightning conquest of Afghanistan. This guy, whose name is Ashraf Haidari, he's an economist at the Afghan Finance Ministry. He says he's been waiting anxiously for some kind of sign that things are going to return to normal. Anyway, he got a call from a Taliban commander who said, you better return to your ministry where you work. We've got to allocate funds to the country's 34 provinces. He said, don't panic or try to go into hiding. The officials need your expertise to run our country after the crazy foreigners leave. That's what Haidari, who's 47, told Reuters. To fit in with the norms of the previous Taliban rule, where they brutally enforced a strict interpretation of Sharia law, Haidari grew a beard. After the phone call on Sunday, he swapped his suit for traditional Afghan robes to meet his new bosses. Reuters spoke to 3 other mid-level officials at Afghanistan's finance ministry and central bank who said that they'd been told by the Taliban to return to work because the country faces economic upheaval and a shortage of cash. So you can say what you want about the Taliban, right? And trust me, I'm no fan. But this is good advice. Get back to work. Get the country going. Stop with the stupid masks and the hand sanitizer and the lockdowns and the bullshit. Let's get things moving. You know, this is a chance for real countries to actually watch as Afghanistan starts to accelerate. Like, you know, sometimes you do well because you're faster and more nimble and smarter and more efficient and all of those things. Sometimes you do well just because everyone else is stuck. And
so sometimes you do well. Sometimes you do well because you don't ask everyone's opinion. You know, there are places in the world that do well. Singapore does well because, unlike here in South Africa, where every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a say, is no. You come to Singapore, this is what you are. You can leave. Sometimes you do well because of that. South Korea, sometimes you do well because of that.
Hey, listen, if the Taliban end up getting things working for the average Afghan, I'm in favor. Obviously, I think they're a brutal, backward, primitive, Stone Age bunch of savages. But let's see, because even those kinds of people can sometimes build civilizations. God alone knows. That's where all of our civilizations started, right? So let's see how quickly they can accelerate. Apparently, according to Jimmy Manyi, poor Jacob Zuma, and we spoke about this Basitsana's message earlier, poor Jacob Zuma, he doesn't have millions stashed somewhere. According to Mzwanele Manyi, what is that? According to Mzwanele,
sorry.
Oh, okay, I thought it was my phone. Mzwanele Manyi says you've got to be sympathetic. He's 79 years old, so he's only a year younger than Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones. Okay, hasn't done as many drugs, but he's lived almost as long. Apparently, this guy has no money, desperately needs some cash. Zwanele says there's no money hidden away. You know that President Zuma, contrary to popular belief, he says, he doesn't have millions and billions stashed somewhere. He's just a pensioner that's living on a government salary. And the kinds of legal bills that he's dealing with are just too much, says
Too much.
Zwanele. Too much. So
Sell your house. There we go.
Thank you. I was about to say
270 million rand house with the
that-
refurbishments that, because we know now that the house cost what 270 million just to do upgrades. So if you sell the house, it's probably worth what 400 million if it was just for upgrades. Remember, you told us.
Guys, you're not going to be able to sell that. You know where it is? It's in the middle of like a rural area where it's the only big house in the area. None of those people around there can buy it. Who's going to move out to Nkandla? You people are so unsympathetic. I think you need to donate some money to get Letlegisa. That's what I think. Come on.
Surely.
You know who?
And things that are not going to happen. No.
Let's get some good advice from Sean Sanders. He'll know what to do with this. I mean, Sean, do you have any spare cash lying around after the last big bull run on Bitcoin, which is still going on? You know, I mean, it's $48,000. You have some spare cash lying around at Revix to send to the former president to help pay his legal bills. Come on, Sean, be charitable. Be charitable. Why not? Huh? Come
Morning,
on,
guys.
Morning.
I jumped into a rather interesting conversation. Hell no. I'd rather put the money into something valuable. There's no chance I'd do that.
But he's a good investment, Sean. He's 79 years old. He could run again for president. Why wouldn't you put money into the Jacob Zuma Foundation? I mean, he needs all the help he can get.
It's compelling. I mean, 79 years old, you know, good funders though, like deep pockets. I don't know. Why does he need my money, I suppose?
Well, he's got those huge legal bills. That's the big problem. Sean Sanders is the co-founder and the boss at Revix, and we've spoken to Sean pretty much every week of this year in the ups and downs of crypto. There's so much exciting shit going on here. So I just want to get straight to the point. Decentralized finance. So a lot of people have been asking questions, Sean. And Revix, you guys offer all kinds of diversified portfolios of the world's top cryptocurrencies. So you're already helping us to diversify, but decentralized finance is the way of the future. We've spoken about this so many times already. There's still questions though. Somebody sent me a question to say, Sean, can you just explain to those of us who are brand new to this, what is decentralized finance?
Yeah. So decentralized finance is, I mean, you heard this term, they'll say it's the future of finance. But really what it's referring to is finance applications that are built on top of blockchains. So kind of a broader picture here. If you look at the way that the current system works, you've got a broker, you've got a bank, you've got an insurance company, you've got all these different players which act as standalone entities, and you engage with that company and they manage your funds and everything. So that's the way that the world's always worked. Now, decentralized finance is essentially taking that entire institution, that insurance firm, that bank, that brokerage firm, and making it into an application. And these applications are called, in blockchain terms, decentralized applications because they sit on top of blockchains. And what this means is instead of you going to the bank to say, hey, I would like a loan, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a car, whatever the story may be, you could potentially go to an application that connects you with a variety of different lenders around the world, and you would be able to then borrow money from them. And that's this.
Why would we do this? Just explain to me why this is an advantage and why this is the future.
So, yeah, I think if you drive into Sandton, I mean, you can drive into any major city, you see those really big, shiny buildings, and they generally have banking logos on them. Now, the reason that those buildings exist is because they've got a lot of money, and they've got that money from you, right? Financial intermediaries love to pull money out of the system, right? So, I don't know, go make an international SWIFT payment, right? Go pay some person that's sitting in another country. You pay 500 Rand for a 2,000 Rand payment. Like, what on earth are you paying for?
And the paperwork.
The paperwork as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, look, people don't like banks. Like, this is the truth. So now imagine a banking system, because decentralized finance, and the decentralized part really just means that it's running peer-to-peer on a blockchain network. The exciting part about this is that all of a sudden finance, and I'm a finance geek, so this is the thing that gets me the most excited, is that this is automated finance. So it's not the finance we know today where it's, oh, I want to take out a mortgage, I go to a bank, I apply to a bunch of different providers. It's no, you can actually do this all in real time online. And based on game theory, really, and behavioral incentives for different parties, you're able to essentially do exactly what you're doing in the current financial world, but just through this decentralized means. So DeFi, I mean, has grown from being worth a couple $1 million just over 18 months ago to now being worth $100 billion. There's probably no faster growth in anything that I can imagine over the space of time. So that's sort of the potential that people are seeing in this. I mean, at Revix, we're sitting here like going, well, how can we get our customers exposure to these DeFi protocols, or the growth in this DeFi space? And what we did is we launched Uniswap this last week.
What is Uniswap? Tell us about that.
Yes, okay. Again, going back to this analogy of looking at traditional institutions and then comparing it to something crypto related. So you've got the JSE. This JSE was beset by quite a few interesting negative developments over the last while, where they halted trading and a whole bunch of other things. But if you imagine the JSE, the New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, you name it, these different exchanges are central intermediaries, right? You literally come as a buyer with stocks, and you look to, or you come with a buyer with money, you look to buy stocks from another participant. They provide that electronic trading venue, and they manage all of that. Now, Uniswap is essentially taking exactly that same concept and putting it as a program on the blockchain, and they've put it on the Ethereum blockchain. And what that means is that you come along to Uniswap, you decide, well, listen, I want to sell some Bitcoin, and I would like to sell that to, I don't know, some Ethereum or some other token. And you can do that without absolutely any central party involved. You're dealing with an application that is handling these transactions. And
is Uniswap actually a cryptocurrency itself?
Yeah, so Uniswap created a cryptocurrency called Uni because you need to have network participants that kind of govern the way that Uniswap works. So essentially, anybody that owns a Uniswap token is a kind of voting shareholder in the actual protocol. So let's say you need to do an upgrade. You need people to be able to vote and say, listen, let's upgrade the exchange, or let's introduce this new cryptocurrency. Let's do all these different bits and pieces. And what's really cool about this is that anyone that owns Uniswap, the token's ticker is UNI. You are then able to make a decision. You're able to make a vote and say, listen, that this upgrade should happen or it shouldn't happen.
Excellent. All right. I love this because this is getting into the nuts and bolts of the stuff. And now you're actually able to buy a currency that you can use, as you put it, like an app instead of a stock exchange. And you can see the immediate application of something like this. So for many people, because you hear about these kind of 10x returns and these 20x returns on these new cryptocurrencies, and Uni's been around a while. It's not brand new, but you guys are launching Uni on Revix, right?
Yeah, so we've actually just launched it, and we've got another promotion because we love promotions on Cliff Central.
Bring it. So do we.
The promotion is fee-free. I mean, we've done this a few times, but essentially you don't have to pay a single thing if you want to buy Uniswap. It's only if you want to sell. So what we're saying is really, put a little bit of money into this. It'll cost you nothing to get in, and we'd recommend holding on for the longer term. The idea with Uniswap as well, so sort of what Uniswap is looking to do, is they're already the biggest decentralized exchange in the world. I'll be lying if I told you the exact exchange volumes, but you're looking at well over $1 billion a day. Now, with that sort of exchange volumes, I mean, if you're thinking into the future, 3, 4, 5 years, all of a sudden you've got mainstream assets, stocks, potentially properties, private assets, other weird legal ownership deeds and whatnot that you're able to trade over blockchains. Now, currently, and this is how nascent this entire asset class is in this entire industry is, you've only really got Germany and Singapore, and Switzerland have got to this point as well, that acknowledge digital asset ownership on a blockchain. So let me put it this way. Imagine I go buy a really expensive Rolex, right? Now, I want to be able to sell that Rolex to somebody else. Currently, we either have to enter into a very old-fashioned, and old-fashioned is what the entire world uses right now, legal agreement that is either digital or on paper, and you have to sign that. Sometimes you have to sign that with wet ink, which I also find that's fascinating. A little squiggle that represents, your name and all the rest.
Is that true? You actually have to use wet ink? That's one of the rules?
Believe it or not, I have to actually head over to Germany to physically go into a bank branch to open a bank account because they need wet ink on the
That's
page.
Insane. That's so old school.
Yeah. So no, that's exactly it. But I'm saying that with that Rolex purchase, if I want to sell that later on, I mean, somebody's going to be trusting this agreement that I had on purchase, right? Instead of having that sitting on a blockchain, that digital, you could essentially say, well, listen, this Rolex has got some serial number on it, And on the blockchain, we could essentially create a little token, and it says, well, this watch has the serial number. This is the date that the transaction took place.
Right.
All of a sudden, when somebody wants to buy this later on, fantastic. They look there. Well, this is a digital immutable record saying this is what took place. It's a lot. I mean, for me, it's like night and day. Of course, you would choose that over, some digital certificate that you could potentially, some physical certificate that you could forge potentially. So the use case here is really huge. I mean, it's really exciting.
I'm sold on the idea of buying some uni. So what's the easiest way to do this on Revix.com?
It's as easy as buying every other asset. You can sign up for an account. As I said before, we should be able to verify you in a few minutes, up to 24 hours if you send us dodgy selfies and all the rest, because we need to do a selfie and compare that to your ID document. From there, you can make a deposit as little as 150 Rand and buy some absolutely fee-free.
That's fantastic. All right, so go along and you can get some of this special promotion, and it's always good because Revix makes sure it's worth your while. They're not just offering you like a little % off here or 2% off there. It's, I mean, you were doubling our money just the other day, and now you're telling us we could buy some uni for what? No fees at all. That's fantastic. Uniswap.
And then just one thing to add to this as well, because we're talking about DeFi. I mentioned a while ago that we launched those flexible savings vaults at Revix. Now we've got a lot more coming out with that. But you can currently go, and this is all decentralized finance, right? We technically are just making it really easy to access the world of DeFi. And if you go, you can look at our USDC savings product. So this is a dollar-backed stable coin that you're able to buy and then earn an interest rate on that's 4 to 7%. It does vary, but 4 to 7% as things stand now. Now, 4 to 7% dollar-based interest is pretty great, right? It's about 50 times more than you earn in a US bank. So that's another big opportunity. And that's just really the beauty of decentralized finance, right? The banks aren't making the money, you are, the people that are getting involved in the space.
I love it. Thank you, Sean. Always good to check in with you. You can find out more by going to @Revix, Revix Invest on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or just go straight to the website, Revix.com, and you can sign up for free, verify your ID, add funds, select the bundle of your choice, and wow, you've got a diversified portfolio. Makes perfect sense. By the way, will SNX's Quenta be able to take on Uniswap as the largest DEX? This is like not even English. Does that mean anything to you, Sean?
That's a good question.
Is it? I wouldn't even know. Is that Klasa? Mbulelo?
That's crypto. That's even worse. That's the reason we exist, by the way.
That would be cryptocurrency. That's a different,
So Sean, what does this mean? Take us through Dave's question here. This is what I love, is our audience is smarter than we could ever be. And I know you're the only one out of all of us who knows what the hell this is. SNX's Quenta and then DEX. What are we talking about?
SNX is another cryptocurrency. I'm actually not familiar with Quenta, but I presume it must be some sort of a DEX upgrade. So DEX stands for Decentralized Exchange, just so you know that as well. So it's just really, will this other tokens cryptocurrency or decentralized cryptocurrency exchange be able to compare with Uniswap? And the truth is, okay, so taking a little step back and not to take up too much time, but because these are open source protocols, you can essentially go and copy the code line for line of the entire project. I mean, you would never be able to go to the JSE and say, listen, just give us your entire trading program, the way everyone trades, and just give us all the code. You'd never get that. But with most cryptocurrency projects, you can just go ahead and do that. So what recently happened, and recently is about a year ago, you had the world's biggest exchange being Uniswap, was just forked. They literally just said, no, listen, let's copy the code and create a new cryptocurrency. And in crypto, because everything's weird, they decided to name it Pancake. It's the Pancake Exchange. And I'm not even joking with you. They sucked all of this liquidity, all of the money that was sitting on Uniswap over to Pancake Swap. And it's fascinating and really weird, but that's like what true capitalism and economics at play kind of does, right? I mean, if you've got a project that you can copy, of course, somebody's going to come along and copy it and try to do better. So that's also the interesting thing in this space, is these guys and girls are having to be really innovative. So you're dealing with smart people at the other side of this as well.
And there's no single human being who's better than all of us when we're working in our different interests. And capitalism is this incredible computational model where everybody's supply and demand needs are put into the system, and then it figures itself out. It's not like central planning where you have one government bureaucrat who decides all this stuff, or the Reserve Bank and its small board of people or whoever. So it's obviously the way of the future. I love it. Sean, thanks so much, man.
Awesome, guys. Thanks again for having me. Have a good week.
Cheers. You see, I knew when we asked that question from David, I knew Sean would know what to do with it. There's no way I would be able to interpret that. It doesn't even sound like English to me, right?
Like, what in the ABC equals ZYR divided by TB2? Like, no, bro.
It's like algebra, that higher grade algebra that we ended up doing right at the end of matric. Just too much for me. Anyway, good stuff. So if you want to find out more, go to Revix, Revix.com. All right. Michael says, just on that note, all banks are the same. Each crypto is unique according to its application and fundamentals. Banks cannot compete with the interest rates offered by crypto platform savings accounts. We've got to. I was having this argument with my dad the other day. Like, either you believe in this thing and you're going to put a little bit of money in there, or you don't. And, his generation, they don't want to understand it because they like having a bank manager. They like having someone they can talk to. So there are lots of people who at his age are interested in crypto, but they're in the minority. I think the rest of us are way more excited about it for obvious reasons. So speaking of being excited, we have an incredible hour of cliffcentral.com coming at you in the next bit. I'm going to speak to a guy called Ryan Mardon, who's an ex-British Army soldier. And he spent time in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I'm sure you've got lots of questions for him. I know I do. I'll hear his story. We'll also check in with Alex from Contro, and we'll speak to a doctor about birth control and what the best options are available to you. So this is the kind of thing that will be turned into a podcast, and you can send it on to any member of the family who's interested in this stuff, because the more information we have about things like birth control, the better. There is no reason that people should be in the dark anymore, should be willfully ignorant, or should not have access to discreet and personal service when it comes to things like birth control. And that's what we're going to try and do with Contro this morning. So stick around for all of that. cliffcentral.com on a Wednesday. I've just got to quickly tell you about one other thing, because we've mentioned him before, but Manu Bosov is the culture expert at King Price, and you might have heard his ads that we play sometimes when we take this break at 7:00. Well, they've put together a nice podcast called A Word from the King, where they explore the many facets of workplace culture from the perspective of King Price's one-of-a-kind culture model. You can learn how to balance culture and strategy. You can make the switch from have to want to in terms of what goes on in your company, and you can actually intentionally design a business and a culture that inspires and motivates everyone who walks through the door. There are 7 episodes. They're available right now on cliffcentral.com. You can find them on Apple Podcasts as well, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Stick around for a whole lot more. cliffcentral.com. Good morning.
Coming up on Auto Central.
I think it all boils down to the fact that we just have a lot more options. I don't think it's necessarily we don't like cars or we're car neutral or we don't want to buy cars. It's just that there's so many more options that we have.
Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
When getting out of the car? Creak when getting out of bed? Do you walk into a room and forget why? Are you having trouble in the sack? Is the hump in a slump? Join me, Chris Haven-Smith, and Dr. Mark on the TeHealth Show every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. where we talk to medical and allied professionals about those serious and not so serious medical lifestyle issues. The TeHealth Show, sponsored by the T Clinic. The TeHealth Show is available on podcasts. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Understood that you made of more, so you're getting up. You wipe the dirt and you shake the dust. They'll never get the best of us. You're unbreakable.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
.com on a Wednesday. We've got Mbulelo here. We've got Lebang. We are busy this morning. We want to have your thoughts and your part to play. You have a part to play in the show. This morning, you know what to do. Message us live on YouTube. Oh, like and subscribe. Very important. And as we learned yesterday from a professional YouTuber, you need to comment down below. It also helps the algorithm. So yes. All of that stuff, you know, this is what we learn on a daily basis. We learn how to be better. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'm going to add, you also have to comment right there, like in the top comment has to be yours. We'll keep bringing you all the best stuff we can as a kind of bonus to that. So lots of things to do this morning. What is this situation? And maybe you know something about this. The Gen Next Awards, which are happening. And I'm asking because I'm kind of out of the loop here. Lebang, you've been talking to people from the Gen Next Awards, and we're actually playing out one of those interviews at 8 o'clock this morning. So tell us what's happening. These are quite prestigious awards, right?
They really are. And I mean, if you grew up in South Africa, I'm sure you have some sort of memory or connection to the Sunday Times as a newspaper. It was like part of the vibe, part of the energy, and they've really managed to remain relevant. So they'll be hosting the 17th annual Sunday Times Gen Next Awards on the 9th of September, and they are digital. So it's basically just an award show that kind of connects brands with the youth better and more authentic and more efficiently. So I think from around 8 o'clock every day, today, tomorrow, and Friday, we'll be playing to some of the conversations that I had. I spoke to the MC, Zanele Potelo. She is so funny. I spoke to Ibn Khevers as well. I spoke to a bunch of people just about how brands can connect more authentically with the youth, because we're seeing like a lot of trends where brands are just like, you know, struggling. So these awards are going to be great.
It's a tough thing to be able to speak to young people authentically, because there's so many people who try to do it and it's just that falls flat, and it sounds like they're trying too hard. I mean, I've seen some horrendous ad campaigns where they're like, "Hey, young person, this is what you should be doing X, Y, and Z." It's like so bad. It's so patronizing. It's so crappy.
It's embarrassing, and it's really interesting that like the bulk of the power, like rather the decision making, lies in the hands of the youth, but all the like only 20% of the advertising is targeted at them. So there's really like a big shift that currently needs to happen between brands and, you know, connecting to the market. So they've also added a new category this year. So I'm just excited. There's a new category. I think it's between the ages of like 25 and 30. So like you're youth, but you know, you're a different type of youth. So they're really planning a lot of great things this time around. So tune in, I think from 8.
What percentage of the decision making when it comes to products is made by young people?
You know, I don't know it off by heart, but only 20% of advertising is targeted at them, but around 60% of the actual decision-making power lies in the hands of the youth. So that's really off balance. And this is something that Yellowwood, the research company, actually found as a case study for the award. So it's all like, you know, it's backed up, it's facts, it's credible sources, it's a reality. So the conversations get quite hectic. I mean, I'm quite brutal. I'm like, okay, cool, the award sounds great, but like, are we actually going to see any change? Why are the brands so disconnected? Why are we still saying things like local is lacquer? So it's going to be a nice one.
Good. Listen to that 8 o'clock this morning. And that is where Lebang spoke to Zanele Potelwa, who's the MC for the Gen Next Awards. Also, Eben Geerwers, who is the head of advertising, sales, and trade marketing at Arena Holdings. And that is the 17th, believe it or not, annual Sunday Times Gen Next Awards. An important thing for anyone in marketing to be looking at. Anyone in sales, marketing, advertising, this is important. Pay attention. And we will bring you all of that. All right, so many things to do. We've got Ryan joining us in a short while. He was a soldier in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm very excited to speak to him today. We've been talking quite a lot about Afghanistan lately because it's been in the news and for obvious reasons. But I've always been fascinated with that place. It's by no means somewhere that I would want to live. It's by no means somewhere that I would want to, plan a luxurious holiday, because there's no such thing in Afghanistan, but it is an interesting country with an incredible history. And it's a country that's, they call it the graveyard of empires for a good reason. But I really am interested to hear about the experience of soldiers on the ground, what kind of people these Taliban are who've just taken over Afghanistan again after 20 years since the US kind of forced them back under the rocks and into the caves that they used to be in, and now they're coming out again and they're in charge. And it just seems like, you've reset the clock 20 years back. We'll find out from Ryan what that's all about. Also, as I said earlier, we'll talk a little bit about birth control with Alex from Contro and with one of the doctors who works with Contro about what we can do there. But before we get to any of that, Mbulelo, what's happening on MKT show, Cliff Central Sport today?
Plenty of Premier League action. We're back in the mix there. The NFL's coming back. For those of you that are American-leaning, college football's coming back. The NBA's on its way back. And so we got plenty to talk about today. Tomorrow we have legendary college coach Kerry Keating. So he'll be on sort of every week, and we talk more American-leaning side. I mean, he's a legend. His father was a legend at Kansas, and there's an arena named after his father, and he worked with the Rockets and everyone in the NBA. So we've kind of got that segment. And then on Fridays, former Springbok Flip van der Merwe will be joining us every Friday for the last hour. We're going to call it the long lunch. If you're a South African, you know what that is. The classic, in Guy's book, miraculously, you haven't had a meeting all week, but on a Friday, you've got the lunch from 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock. And it just so happens to be at an O'Hagan's or the Keg. It's miraculous. and it's always sort of 45 minutes away from the office. It's a big client. Yeah. So the long lunch, Flip van der Merwe, former Springbok and Bulls.
You've had Flip on a couple of times before. He's terrific.
But yeah, he's going to join us every week now. So every Friday, 1 till 2, the last hour of the show, we'll end off the week on just an awesome note, talking sports and everything that's going on on the wonderful internet. So yeah, growing nicely and headed in the right direction. I'm excited to show you something in the next year or so. In the next month or so. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lebang.
Mbulelo, I've watched you work on the show, in the past maybe couple of weeks, and you are so focused. I just want you to get yourself a belt, bro, because you are already doing this thing. You actually are. You are just punching all your energy. Mbulelo walks into the office hi guys, boom, he's just done. We're all just having fat chats and laughing about life, and Mbulelo's
He's focused, yeah.
So he is so focused, and I just want to take that piece of your book, and I'm just gonna adopt that because I think that's just beautiful. All the other pages, we'll see. But that, chef's kiss.
Yeah, go ahead. And if you don't know what we're talking about, just go and watch it. It's really worthwhile. The MKT show, Central Sport. Subscribe and like and all that stuff on YouTube for them as well, not just for this show, so that we can make sure that we've got all your eyes and ears in the right places, so we can bring you the best stuff. Okay, so. Elon says, are you guys ever going back to the studio? What do you mean? I have to wake up again at 4:30 in the morning, then schlep all the way into Rivonia every morning? Probably. I don't know when. The fact is, we've added some new things to the show since we've been doing it remotely. And one of those things is video. So if we go back to the studio, I'm not doing video as well. Not a chance. So you can choose. Either you get to see the show like we do it now, or you get to hear it from the studio. But you're not getting both.
Well, that's easy. The former. Like,
No.
we really added such a great element here. So
Yeah, I'm not going there, and then we've got lights and cameras and all that shit. This works just fine, thank you. And I can control it from here. And any technical issues, if I can't resolve them, Mbulelo can, and if Mbulelo can't, Simpiwe can, and if Simpiwe can't, then Greg can. But if we're in the studio, you actually need the live bodies on site, and sometimes that's not as easy to achieve. So no, if you like the visual aspect of what we're doing, then this is what you want. If you want us to do a radio show and that's all, and you don't get to hear us anymore, I mean, you don't get to see us anymore, but you just get to hear us, then sure, I'll go back to the studio tomorrow. It's up to you. You let us know. I'd be keen to know what we have. A little poll. Let's do a little poll, and you can tell us what you think. All right. I'm very, very pleased to hear suggestions from our audience from time to time. And we've got such amazing listeners who are connected to so many different people. I got an email from somebody just the other day, and she said to me, I know this dude called Ryan. He left South Africa and joined the British Army in 2004. He has been there, and he was on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan for some time. And you've got to talk to him. So I said, sure, let's connect. And Ryan's actually on the line with us now. He was back in 2004. He joined the British Army. 2 events that set him on that path: the 9/11 terror attacks, which I think were a major motivation for many people to take up arms and to do what they could to defend civilization. And I really do think the stakes were that high. And the other thing is that his mom died in 2002. So he was deployed to Iraq in 2005 as a private to a little town called El Amara on Operation Telex 6 as part of the ground holding infantry contingent. In 2009-10, as a lieutenant, he was deployed to Afghanistan. Their role in the area was twofold. They were ground holding and local national training and support, and they spent a long 8 months deployed there. In 2013 and 14, he was a captain, and he was deployed to Afghanistan again on Operation Herrick 19 as an artillery forward observer. As commander of a fire support team, his team's role was to control all offensive fires. That's artillery, mortars, attack helicopters, fast jets, etc., in support of the battle group that they were working with. So he's got some interesting stories to tell us. He's got some experiences that are unique, and I'm very pleased to have him with us this morning. Hey, Ryan, how are you doing? You're just on mute. Just unmute your mic there, and then we're good. Sorry, there we go.
Oh, the story of digital meetings. Yeah, thanks, Gareth.
I'm just glad it wasn't a trigger, or the Taliban would have shot you by now. But there we go.
True story. No, true story.
So Ryan, I mean, what an interesting deployment, a couple of deployments you've had. First of all, let's just go back to the very beginning. You started in 2004 in the British Army, and as I read there, that you had 2 main motivations for that. Obviously, September the 11th, which I think shook a lot of people to their core. But your mum also died in 2002. Just explain those reasons to those people who wonder, why is it that some people want to get into a uniform and go to a dangerous place when they can just stay safe somewhere else? I mean, we're in the year of stay safe. Stay safe, stay home. Nobody wants to even leave their houses. What motivates people to do this?
So for me, so obviously, when 9/11 happened, obviously it shook the world. And I think, a part of everyone, well, I think most people kind of asked in themselves, like, what am I doing to prevent anything like this? And, if it could happen to the States, it could really happen anywhere. So that was the first thing. And then when my mom passed away, a lot of the stuff that I'd always thought, like, oh, wouldn't that be cool to do? I think it just brought how short life is into perspective. So I thought, if you want to do something and if something drives you, why not just do it? If you fail and it doesn't work, well, then it doesn't really matter, to be honest. You can always just start again. And, people have proved that time and time again that you can start again. So, I mean, those were the 2 of them. Like, I'd never, when I grew up, I'd never thought of joining the army. It was never ever one of my sort of dreams or wishes. And like, I used to listen to my father talk about his time in the army and all his friends, and I thought it was cool. But I mean, being honest, I don't think I was ever going to join the South African army. It just was never ever a path that I had thought of. And then, I saw that there was some.
In the South African army, you would have got fat and stayed on base the whole time. I don't even think they do physical training anymore.
We actually ended up. We actually came back when I was still in the infantry. We came to Lahatta, which is the infantry training center in Postmasburg in the eastern Karoo, and we did a training exercise. It was about a month-long training exercise with the South African army, which was quite interesting, quite eye-opening.
Yeah, you're being diplomatic, which I suppose is part of your training as well. So let me understand, because for many of us, the real fascination is what it is like to be in a country like Iraq or Afghanistan. First of all, talk to us about Iraq, and then tell us what it's like to be a soldier in Iraq.
Iraq for me was a big flash to bang. I finished basic training, and within 3 weeks, I deployed as part of an infantry battle group to Iraq. And the hardest part for that was a week before I deployed, one of my multiple, which is the group with the team within your work, had actually been hit by a roadside bomb, and he lost his life. So, I got in at a very sort of hard stage with my team. And it's not easy. You live, and it's not a lovely place. We were quite on the outskirts of the town, and that's how most of the bases are constructed. It's on the outskirts, so you've got a bit of a perimeter defense, and you've got some time to see people coming in. And when we went into the town, it's hard. They don't have surge systems. So the center of the street is where all the cuck goes. And the place stinks, and people aren't necessarily happy that you're there. So there was always hostility against us, which was never ever a nice thing. It is hard. Everyone's away from their families, and there's always that risk of going out and not coming back in. And I think that was always the hardest part about everything.
I understand that a lot of the big danger was these IEDs, these improvised explosive devices that they would put in the road, or they would put in the way of people making movements and maneuvers. And many people lost their lives from those, not necessarily from firefights or from the kind of battles that they make movies out of, right?
Yeah, so we started, that's very true. Those, the up armored Land Rovers that were behind me in the photo that you showed previously, we started patrolling in those until one of the evenings where one of them drove over a roadside bomb, and literally it obliterated the whole vehicle. All 4 people lost their lives in it. And then we moved over to an armored fighting vehicle, it's called a Warrior in the army. It's just a tracked, very high armored, personnel carrier, sorry. And then we started patrolling in those. But those poor little Land Rovers could take up to about a 7.62 round, and that was about it. So the threat was very real, and I think that continued regardless of Iraq or Afghanistan. They became very, very smart with the way that they deployed those IEDs, and it was the biggest threat. Firefights we could handle. Everyone was trained for firefights. But if you hit a roadside bomb, or if you walk over an IED, you can't really do anything to combat that.
So, Ryan, what kind of guns? I'm a bit of a gun nut. What kind of guns did you guys use? And what were you most skilled at? What were you most well trained for in terms of arms and ammunition?
So Iraq was a little bit different. So we had the standard SA-80, which was it's a bullpup 5.56. So it's a NATO standard round rifle, and you can see it there with a
holding. Yeah, that's what you're holding in this picture, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and that actually stayed from a general service rifle that stayed the whole way through my army career, all 11 years. They made small changes sort of as we went along, but the base of the SA-80 sort of stayed the same as we went through. And that was what infantry used. It's what engineers, every single unit within the army used those as their primary firearm. And then, so we didn't have sidearms in Iraq. When we went over to Afghanistan, we started with the CZ on my first deployment, and moved over to Glock for my last deployment.
That's your sidearm, right?
That's
your okay. Yeah. So what's the difference between Iraq and Afghanistan from a point of view of being a soldier in either?
So my view was so Iraq was actually, the places where we were within Iraq were more established. I think that the key difference between the two is obviously the Taliban and Sharia law. I think that within Afghanistan, obviously that was more predominant than any of the other eastern states. And I think just also the sheer amount of people within the operational space was quite different. Iraq was, we were a relatively small battle group, quite isolated, where in Afghanistan, there were hundreds of thousands of people on the ground because it was, it was a multinational effort.
And Afghanistan is a lot more backward and rural than people think. It really is. Yeah. It's a Stone Age place in some ways. It's very tribal. There are conflicts between tribes that have nothing to do with the whole national question. The Taliban themselves, at various stages, were either in the ascendant or in complete decline. Some provinces were more dangerous than others. Helmand is particularly dangerous even today. It's probably the place you want to least find yourself in. And that was where the British Army was mostly deployed. You guys were probably around Kandahar as well, right?
Yes, yeah. So Kandahar was our main airfield. So that was, I say our main airfield. That's where most of the sort of American forward operating troops came out of from an air perspective. And then we were obviously in Bastion, but you always flew into Kandahar, and then from Kandahar got onto a C-130, which is essentially a troop carrier, and hopped over to Helmand from there, or to Bastion from there.
What is this picture here of this base, Camp Abanaji?
That is actually still our camp from Iraq. That was back in 2005. It looks like they haven't. I was shocked when I jumped onto Google to try and find them for you guys. So that's where we lived for 8 months. The in the northern part of that photo is where us as troops sort of lived. They were expeditionary tents, and then there was. Yeah, that's our camp.
You mean no 5-star hotel, no swimming pool? What's the point of being in Iraq with all that sun if you don't get by the pool all day?
Yeah, no, there was definitely no pool. We were lucky if we had aircon sometimes, but no, it was extreme camping. It's just the easiest way to try and explain what it was.
It can't be very pleasant. And this is in Afghanistan, is it? This is a patrol base.
Yes, yeah. So the economy of scale is so that patrol base is small. We had a infantry company plus an Afghan Kandak, which is their equivalent to a company living in there, and we were essentially the first ones in there, and that's kind of where we lived for 8 months. That was very, very rural. We didn't even have toilets. The engineers built us these wooden toilets that you could put plastic toilet bags onto to use the toilet.
My God. Ryan, when you guys were training the Afghan military, you were hoping that they would be able to sustain themselves. That was the international hope. That's what the US government, the British government, all the other governments involved, NATO and everybody else, they were hoping that these guys who you'd spent months, if not years, trying to bring up to speed, they'd be able to hold together. At the time when it eventually came, where, the international community would take a back seat. Are you surprised at how quickly everything folded? 11 days, they say, from the announcement of the US withdrawal until the Taliban had virtually taken over every square inch of the country again. Are you surprised by that? Are you a little?
I wish I could say yes, I am, but I'm not. While we were there, we faced two problems. One was, and not taking anything away from them, a lot of them were very lazy. So there was that. They were, it was a fight to get them to go out on patrol when we were training them. And the other issue is that our biggest threat from them was that internal to their own military, people would turn sides and then kill a whole lot of people in the name of the Taliban and then kill themselves. It was never ever a good place. And I lost a friend to that, and that was obviously not easy. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Look, unfortunately, we had such good intentions, and I think the international community had such good intentions going in there, and the hope that they would stand up and take the bull by the horns and actually start to look after their own country. But obviously it didn't happen.
Tell me what it's like to live in Afghanistan for the ordinary Afghan, because we've spoken about you living in the camp, but what is that country like, and what kind of lives do people lead?
I think they lead a life of hidden fear. I think, because the Taliban's been there for so long, I think that fear is ingrained in all of them. To be a female in that country must not be a very nice thing. And I think everyone's heart goes out to them for that. But even as a male, if you didn't support the Taliban, you were never ever on a good place. But I think your average lifestyle it's very rural. Most people are subsistence farmers. Life actually exists along the Helmand River. So you get like this arid desert up to a point where they've irrigated their fields, and then you get this this lush green sort of farmland. And most of the population that outside of the main cities lives around the Helmand River. So it's very congested, as you said, very tribal, and just a lot of farming goes on.
And the Taliban themselves, it seems like such a strange throwback to like almost the Dark Ages, but in some ways those skirmish armies of like the 1800s that you'd find in mountainous areas. These guys would just suddenly start shooting at you from some mountain somewhere, or you'd hear about a car that had been blown up somewhere. They were really opportunists, not a very well-organized military, are they?
No, so there were three sort of groups within Afghanistan that we fought. You had obviously the Taliban, who were the old school guys who've been around for a long time and have had some sort of training within themselves. And then you had out of area fighters who were just so there was obviously a lot of warlords within Afghanistan who have quite a lot of money. Obviously, the poppies being the main
heroin,
the main
right?
source. Yes, for heroin. Yes.
Heroin.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So they brought in fighters from out of area, and they were usually relatively well trained fighters. And then you got like the third lot that we called $10 Taliban. So that was essentially it was a farmer who got given a rifle, got given a little bit of money, and said, when these guys walk past, you shoot at them. So you're very right, it was all very opportunistic. The only time we ever really had any coordinated attacks was when they attacked the smaller, like our patrol base. If we ever got attacked, you would get attacked from multiple areas. And you knew that was a bit more coordinated than the sort of the shoot and scoot, which we used to call it from our normal patrols. But we combated a lot of that by doing, we changed our patrol routes very often. We went out at different times. We went to different places. So we didn't really allow them the chance to coordinate an attack while we were out on the ground.
And you can't have a routine, because they'll learn very quickly what that routine is, and then they'll take the chance of getting you guys. So what is this picture here? We've got who are these? Your fire support team?
Yeah, that's my fire support team. So those are our vehicles behind there, the Buffaloes, and the light gun was the artillery piece within the UK armed forces that we had deployed to Camp Ashton as support.
By the way, that light gun, as you refer to it, the end of the of the barrel is as big as two men's heads. Yeah,
it's because so the light gun, obviously that's a towed artillery piece. It's a 110 millimeter light gun, 100 millimeter light gun. So it's a 100 millimeter propelled artillery shell. And then we have the AS-90, which is the heavy artillery, which is obviously the 120 mil that can shoot 24.7 kilometers and makes a really big bang on the other end.
Yeah, you could take out a large mountaintop with that, right?
You could do damage. So artillery itself is actually an area weapon. So you're never ever really trying to. You can't really destroy much ground with it. Look, you could take out a few buildings if you tried, but it's more of an area effect. So you've got a whole lot of infantry on the ground. You need to take them out. You put artillery onto it. You've got a whole lot of vehicles. You put artillery onto it. If you want to put down a building or a top of a mountain, you drop a bomb from a plane.
Right. And you guys had air support from both the Americans and the British, right?
Sure. We had air support from Italians, French, Saudi Arabia, UK, British, Oman. Yeah, we had a lot of air support in Afghanistan. It was really impressive.
Was there any rivalry between the Americans and the Brits on the ground? Obviously, very different cultural ways of running things, and the military. The military hierarchies are quite different. The way that they behave in the field is very different to how you guys in the British Army would have. Did you have any friendly rivalries there?
I think, I mean, there's always friendly rivalries between militaries when they're cohabitating. I mean, but when it comes to working on the ground, we worked so much with the Americans that there was never ever, we knew exactly what they needed. They knew what they needed to do. We knew what we needed to do. We had our own areas of responsibility. Very rarely did we do a big group together sort of effort. It would always work, if we were going to do an assault or a search on a big village or two villages, they would have the one village, we would have the other village. We would secure the two of them, and that would kind of be the operation done.
Ryan, I just want to know is what do you, because there's like fake tough guys like me who think, I've run a marathon, I've actually done something, but like you guys who are like, you don't need to talk about it, you're about that action, is how do you feel when yuppies and dickheads like me start to talk about the price of freedom and the things that you're actually doing on the ground, and as you said, with good intentions?
And
for you
frankly,
as
politicians too, right, Mbulelo? You hear these
I was going to, I mean,
who's paying for that?
Yeah, and I mean, so that is interesting to me. Is obviously you've got that there's dickhead diplomats that come and tell you what to do, and you actually need to do this stuff. How do you feel about these people living a soft life, telling you what to do, and actually what's happening when you know what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think my view on it's changed quite a lot since I left the army. It was quite hard being in the army and hearing a lot of the politicians talk and people talk about what's right and wrong that was happening within either the forces or the country when we were deployed. At the end of the day, if two people are in the same situation, they're going to act differently. And if one person is a highly trained and skilled individual, they're going to do it the way that they're trained. And, it is what it is. Everyone fights their own battles. And I'm being very diplomatic with this, but, I didn't like it personally, if you want my honest truth. I think that, if you want to shout and tell people how to protect people's freedoms, go and do it for a day and see if you want to tell them after that, is my honest truth.
Sorry, Gareth, I've just got one more question. So Ryan, I listen a lot to a guy called Jocko Willink. I don't know if you've heard from him. He was more Navy SEAL, and I just wanted to know as well, is you had the real experience. How do you feel about, so Jocko does massive podcasts and he's kind of brought that military reality into the world. Do you think that should stay with you guys, and you guys do that? It should almost stay in the locker room, or are you comfortable with guys talking about it on the format to people like us and allowing us to almost comment?
I think it's cool. I realized I struggled when I first started in the army to talk about my experiences, but I realized quite quickly that what I found normal and mundane of my life was fairly interesting to my friends and family and people that I talk to. So, I'm a big proponent for people talking about what happened. It also allows people to deal with stuff in their brain, because, if you can't talk about something, it just sort of festers inside of you. And then, I've lost friends to suicide post-Afghanistan. And, it's hard because they didn't think they could talk about the stuff that they were experiencing. So I say 100%, and it's with everything. Talk about everything in your life, whether it's your experiences, whether it's your relationships. It is really important to be able to talk to people about stuff.
Ryan, are there things that you have brought back in terms of skills that you use in the world now? I believe that you're actually involved in software development and like game development and stuff, which is amazing. That's a very big change of pace for you. But I also see a message here from Dean, who says, Ryan, on a side note, thank you for protecting us during the KZN looting. You're such a legend. I mean, this is probably not something you would have brought up if Dean hadn't mentioned it now. But you do have a set of skills after you've done what you've done for as many years as you've done it, that put you in a position where you can be really useful in the world. You have abilities that the rest of us don't have when shit gets really untidy. And I think that stuff must be nice to know that you can rely on those skills, that you can pull them out of the cupboard, dust them off, and put them to work when you need to. Are there any other skills that you've got that you are pleased to have?
So I'm not necessarily a developer. So I'm not a developer. I was a project manager. So organizing stuff and running to a schedule it just worked very well with my last role as a forward observer, because that's all you did, is you planned a battle space and everything needed to happen at a certain time. So that I kind of fitted quite well into the project management space, and I was very lucky getting the role in the company that I'm with, and I enjoy it. But yeah, I think, Dean brought it up, the Keynesian rights. For me, no one expected that to happen. I think that's the biggest thing. So, I left the army thinking that that's the last time I'm going to stand in a baseline in front of a whole lot of people that wanted to kill me. And never did I think that in my own hometown that was going to be the case. So that was it. It was a shocking reality that it can happen, and it probably will happen again to anywhere in South Africa. Unfortunately, I'll be very honest. So that week was crazy, and I was very thankful for the training that I had, and for I ran around sticking my hand up, telling people, like, I'll help. Like, this is what I've done. Please, just if you need assistance with anything, please take me. So eventually it happened, and we started coordinating the community policing forums within the area, which was really cool. A group of us like-minded sort of people and business leaders and leaders within the community got together, and we started getting out some radios to people so we could start coordinating the different areas better. And it started working really well. And from that, we're starting to try to put together a little public benefit organization that'll help train the CPF within the area, look after the surrounding settlements, and try and train them to add some value for them. So
that's fantastic. It's amazing. Like, as you say, you didn't think you'd need those skills to come before again, and here they are. They're being worked on right now. We've got like 2-3 minutes. Lebang, you've been quiet, but I'm sure you've got some questions.
Yes, I've got 3, but I'll just crunch it down to 2. So the first one, Ryan, is what are some of the stereotypes that we see? As the average person who isn't going to the army, what are some of the stereotypes that we see in movies that you can say from your experience are spot on? That is true. You're seeing a reflection of how it truly is. And the second question is, would you ever allow your kids to join the army, if you ever have kids?
So stereotypes, the shouty sergeant major, you always see in the videos and basic training where the guy's standing there screaming in people's faces. That definitely happens. And I'll say it very unfortunately, because I ended up as an officer, the brain in the clouds young officer who doesn't necessarily know what's going on and runs around being guarded by his senior soldiers is definitely a true stereotype in a lot of places. The question about my kids joining the army, my kids or any kids, I would recommend, if that's the path people want to take, I'd say do it. I had an amazing experience in my time in the armed forces. And, it's unfortunate that I would say don't join the South African army maybe just yet. But if you've got the opportunity to join the UK or the US or a professional army, I'd say do it, because your experience outweighs any part of the risk. If I'm honest.
Sure. It's amazing. What do you miss the most?
My 1.5 month skydiving trips to California every year. No. No, I think the thing I miss. So there's a lot of camaraderie. As an officer's mess, it's like a group of, I would say, I could only equate it to what I think an American frat house must be like. But you got to go to war at some point. The camaraderie and that fellowship is very strong, and I think that's probably the hardest thing, or that's the biggest element that I miss from my time in the army.
All the other guys are all over the world, right? You don't see each other regularly anymore.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the nice thing is, I speak to the bulk of my close friends from the military quite often, and some are still in, some have left. And so it's quite a nice balancing act between, what people are still doing and within the forces and what we've sort of achieved outside of them.
Well, Ryan, it's terrific to talk to you, and thank you very much for speaking to us. I know lots of former soldiers are not all that keen on the media because they're also in the way all the time in places like Afghanistan. And they tend to take your story, sensationalize it, and make it less about you and more about politics. So I appreciate you speaking to us very frankly this morning. There's so much more that I wanted to ask you. And maybe we talk again if you've got some time, because there are people here asking, can we talk to Ryan for a whole hour? Because I'm sure he's got some great stories. I'm sure you do. But well done on all the things that you've achieved, not only in the army, but these things that you've done since you've been back in South Africa. And the Greater Together Foundation is what you're involved in now. You're looking at how you can add value to the surrounding struggling communities through coordinated aid and training. And obviously, the logistical and operational part of things, which you're a master at because of your training, is where you add value. So the Greater Together Foundation, can we find out more about that online, or is there a community in Durban? What's the story?
So it's quite a big flash to bang with it. Everyone's been doing it in their spare times. It's kind of just a passion project for a lot of us. So, the website should be up and running, I'm hoping, by the end of this week. We've been running some briefings in the evenings at the Pearls in Umhlanga once a week, which has been quite beneficial, because fundamentally any organization needs funding, and that's kind of where we're at the moment, whilst still trying to do the work we can with the community outside of it. So if you want to find out more, the website should be up this week, and we should have some information on there.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
Good to see you. Isn't that cool? Isn't that interesting? Great to have.
That's a real life tough guy right there.
Yeah, and
none of these juiced up clowns and four-ways. That's a real tough guy.
Wow, four-ways just gets dragged.
No, but that's what for real looks like. Like a lot of us think we're real. That guy's real. That is awesome. Jeez.
I'm very excited this morning. We've got so much going on. It's been such a busy show so far, but it's not over yet. We're going to speak to Alex. You remember we had on not so long ago. Alex is the boss at Contro, and we've spoken about what Contro do. Contro.co.za is their URL. Alex Schmid is the guy who started the business, and he joins us again along with Dr. Shamista, who is going to help us answer some of the questions that they get asked most often about the service they offer, particularly with regard to birth control. So it is with great pleasure that we welcome Alex back. How are you doing, man?
Hi, Gareth. How you guys doing?
Excellent. Nice to see you. And Dr. Shamista, it's very nice to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, morning. Thanks for having me.
So, guys, I'm going to get straight into it because I don't want to waste either of your time. There's so much noise around birth control in the world, and that's also something that's become political, and it's become messy, and it's become difficult for people to talk about. But let's just talk about birth control and contraception for a minute. Alex, what are the main questions that you get? Your business is new, but you guys are already supplying birth control to people. It seems to me a much more sensible way of doing it than having to go and get your local doctor, schlep to the pharmacy, have to get the thing reissued every time. With you, it all happens online, and you can explain that process to us in a minute. But what are the main questions you get from your clients about birth control?
To be honest, it's a range. I think what's quite shocking to us in some ways is just the sort of lack of education generally in the country with regards to birth control. We get questions about, what are the different methods? How do they work? I think the biggest one we've had recently is, how do I start my birth control? So I think the general education level around birth control in the country just isn't what it should be. And, in terms of what we're trying to do is help educate individuals as well as trying to get them their birth control at the same time.
How do you get communication with people? Actually, remind us in case people missed you the first time you came on and explained it.
Sure. So
you need to go and see a doctor, for example. How does it work?
Yeah, so basically how it works is you sign up, you select, as an example, if you want birth control, you fill in our health assessment form, which asks all the questions that Shamista would probably ask you in a consultation face-to-face. And once you've finished that health assessment form, you submit it, you check out, and you book an appointment with one of our partner doctors. that appointment can be booked within 24 hours, and it's online, and you do it through sort of Google Meet or your telephone if you don't have internet access, and you can have a chat directly to them. And Shamista, being one of them, will help you choose a birth control method that is, unique to your body and also your budget.
And Shamista, let's be sensible about this. I mean, this is not something you need to actually make an appointment with your doctor every time to do. Once your doctor is familiar with you, just to allay people's fears, this is a perfectly safe way of doing things, right?
Yes, no, for sure. Once you have that first meet with the doctor, I mean, your initial history is taken. So you don't need a continuous every 6 months, the same thing being happen. The main thing with birth control is your blood pressure being taken, and to make sure that in terms of your health, you're not having any side effects with what you're on at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean, it's really just making sure that you've taken care of the basic concerns around any contraindications, that sort of thing, and then allowing people to just order this stuff and make sure that it's there when they need it. Because I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you've run out of birth control, and that's precisely when there's a window of opportunity for something to go wrong.
Correct. And on this platform, it makes it so easy. I mean, with birth control specifically, it's it's about taking it on time correctly and making sure you don't miss it. And with a platform like this, just in case you don't have time to go to a doctor or follow up to go to a pharmacy, this just makes it easier. And on a platform like this, reminders come to you instead of you having to remember the night before or on the day.
How does the contraceptive pill actually work?
Okay, so with the contraceptive pill, we have two types. We have your progesterone only and your combined, meaning your estrogen and progesterone. What happens with your estrogen and progesterone are your female sex hormones that prevent ovulation, that's egg being released for fertilization, as well as it changes the cervical mucus and the uterine lining to prevent an optimum condition for fertilization to happen, thus preventing pregnancy.
And how effective is it? I mean, is there a 95% chance that you won't get pregnant? Is that something that you guys have figured out to the percentile?
With the studies, it does show that both progesterone and the combined pill will be, if taken correctly, are 99%, 98 to 99% effective. Correctly mean that they are taken on time, they are not missed. It has to be taken every day.
I know that Lebang's got a bunch of questions for you here too, but one last one from me. I've heard lots of women talking about the contraceptive pill being used for acne, for example, or any other things that it's not actually meant for. What are your feelings on those, and what do the rest of the doctors say too?
It is. Acne is one of the major benefits of being on a hormonal pill. For females, from the time you start puberty till forever, I think, with a female, your hormones basically control your metabolism and how your body works. So one of the benefits being acne, as it decreases your oil production and your sebum production, that's helping your acne. It also helps in terms of, in females, with your menstrual cycle, controlling your bleeding, controlling your cycle, helping with the pain, your PMS symptoms. So there is a range of benefits, not just the contraceptive side of it.
Mm-hmm. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. And I remember specifically just being younger and not really knowing enough about the pill and not having enough access to the information to take it confidently and to trust it confidently. And some of the stereotypes around the pill is that, you put on a lot of weight and it doesn't react naturally to your body and you don't actually need it. Like, how true is that? Because that is still a very, very a big thing around the pill.
Yes, no, for sure. Number one being, I'm a huge advocate. I mean, being female myself, going through it, on this platform, you get, it's talked about, but in certain cultures, it's a taboo thing to approach your parents for, or somebody, as a doctor for. Here you get the information. Here you can talk to somebody with questions that if you're not confident in what's being explained to you. Number two, in terms of all the myths and facts, what's real, what's not real. Remember, for anything in medicine or in life, everyone reacts differently. Your bodies are essentially, we're all made of the same thing, but all our chemical structure works differently and how we react it differently.
Yeah.
So essentially the pill you don't gain weight as such, but you may, as an individual, retain fluid. So it's more fluid retention that you have. And that should go away within the first 3 months of you taking it, as your body tries to get used to the foreign substance that you're taking, as with any other pill or medication that you would take.
Yeah. And what would you say are some of like the other actual benefits of, taking the pill?
With females, I mean, PMS control is a big thing. A lot of people suffer from major cramping and pains, mood swings, that can actually be debilitating for a female that has to take like a day or two off in a cycle per month. So here we have, there's nothing wrong. It's not just being used for contraception now these days. It is being, as young individuals, you can go onto it from the age of 16 or even before if you have really bad acne, really bad hormonal control in terms of mood swings or back pain. So there are other benefits for it.
But you mentioned something earlier that I think is really important, is that there is a huge amount of shame and of I suppose family pressure in many situations for a young woman. The minute you show any interest or you decide that it's time for you to start thinking about birth control, there's a lot of stereotyping that comes into this too, and a lot of families just are not even prepared to talk about this stuff. So a lot of girls are left out in the cold with no one to go to, and if they bought the stuff, in a back alley somewhere, they don't know that it's safe. They also don't know who to talk to if something goes wrong.
Correct. And I feel in this day and age, we need to be open about such things. It's not something to be ashamed of. And for now, in this day and age, we rather be aware of such situations that we want to protect ourselves. And as females, we have our careers and we want to aspire to other things. So it's all about empowerment for females, I think, as well. To know about your bodies, to know how things work, it all falls into that category. So everything should be, and as a female growing up, we want you to have that open communication, but it's culture that and society that makes these topics taboo. And I think if we, as female doctors and particularly, make it more okay to talk about this and open and make it an everyday thing, I think that'll help young females and just females in particular for every day going forward.
Alex, can I ask you a question? And by the way, Lebang's lack of birth control just walked into the room there.
He's leaving for school. I'm like,
do you need to go and do you need to be a mum for a second? Because I've got some questions.
Give me a moment.
Alex, when Dr. Shamista talks about how there's this platform, just how does it exactly work? So if I'm a young girl who's sitting at home now going, okay, this is a solution that seems right for me. What do? I go online? Do I have to talk to a doctor there? How do I ask questions? How do I make people less nervous about this?
So, it is a case of getting online. The first thing is obviously going to contro.co.za and looking at the products we offer. Right now, we only offer birth control and erectile dysfunction medication, which is obviously for the male side.
You and I will talk about the hard-on pills some other time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
No.
But in terms of the birth control, I think that the key point is we have a huge database of knowledge on our help desk. I think we have 130 questions regarding, sexual health generally. And I think of that, 80 of them are birth control related. So if you're looking for information or sort of a first start in terms of trying to understand how the pill works or what you're looking, what you need to get onto it, etc., jump on Contro, jump to our help desk and type in your question. We'll probably have the answer there for you. And if we don't, we would encourage you to go through the process of ordering birth control, booking a doctor's consultation, which is only 150 Rand at the moment. And then going and having a chat to one of our partner doctors, one of them being Shamista, and asking the questions you want to ask.
And you can actually speak face to face with a doctor like Shamista?
Absolutely. You have a quick online call with him. You have a call like we're having right now. And it's about 15 minutes and you can ask all the questions you want. And Shamista and our other partner doctors will be more than happy to help you out.
Shamista, you doctors must love this because it's a hell of a lot easier than having to see someone in the rooms. And for much of this, you can ask the important and pertinent questions, find out what is required and make the prescription and help these people immediately. It saves you a whole lot of time, doesn't it?
Yes, for sure. I mean, especially now in this the COVID pandemic era, we ourselves don't want to expose ourselves. So this is one way of curbing that. And it's just for convenience for both our from the patient side and the doctor side. It's less travel time, less, making appointments. People can reschedule. I can reschedule. So it's convenience, number one. It's a good platform because you're still talking to someone. You're getting your questions answered. It's not impersonal, and it's safe for both sides.
Well, I think that would be the biggest concern a lot of people would have is that we're so used to having to go to the doctor, having the doctor stick that thing on your tongue, look in your ears, measure your heart rate, your pulse, all that kind of thing. A lot of that stuff is probably unnecessary in this situation, but you can always do that as well. And you can speak to a doctor if you have concerns about those things.
Correct. And for example, birth control, you don't really, if you're on something and you just need a repeat prescription, you don't need to have to physically examine each person every time. If I do have a concern and, I would assess and ask from the health assessment questionnaire that is asked before the consult. And during my consult, I'll ask them pertinent questions surrounding that history. And if I feel that, no, you do need to go for some blood tests or have an ultrasound done, I will advise for that to be done first and the results sent to me before I do prescribe.
Fantastic. And Alex, you say it's only, 150 Rand to get a consultation?
It is, but for Women's Month, up until the 31st of August, we're actually offering 50 Rand off your consultation with the promo code WM50. So jump onto Contro at checkout, put in WM50, and you'll get a consultation for 100 Rand only.
WM50. Okay,
WM50, that's it. Yeah.
Very good. So you're actually doing something for Women's Month, unlike all the politicians who just talk about it. Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there we go. If there's any woman in your family, if you yourself are worried about this, I mean, $100 will get you a consultation with a doctor. You can talk to them about whatever your problem is. As you know, doctors keep everything confidential. You can order your birth control from Contro online. It'll arrive. You know it's safe. You know it's the proper stuff. And you can get on your journey of looking after your own reproductive health and being in charge of your own destiny, which I think for so many women, step
Absolutely.
one, right, Lebang? I mean, this is massively important.
Definitely. I just think the biggest thing is that, that stigma that's involved in the stereotypes is completely removed. And we won't need to feel like we're doing something wrong or like we're not empowering ourselves. I think the medium that you guys have chosen is really dope. I'm excited to see what Contra can do for, the next generation of young girls who want to empower themselves and have access to this information, but are still scared because of what their family is going to say, because of what their friends are going to say. And hopefully this can empower them to lead by example within their friendship circles and within those circles to help other young girls who also want to, and other young boys. I was going to ask what you guys are doing for the male side of things, but I know we'll definitely have time for that conversation in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go and find out more by going to contro.co.za, and Alex's team are all poised and ready to take care of all your questions. And you find most of it for free on the website too. But then if you do want to know more, you can also get to speak to a doctor. So it's it's safe, it's healthy, it's the way to go. And of course, anything else you need to know, they'll be happy to answer too. So thanks, Alex. Good to see you again. And
You
very
too,
good
Gareth.
to meet you, Dr. Shamista. It's very nice to have you on the show this morning. It's always good to talk to professionals and people who know what they're talking about when it comes to this. So many people are embarrassed. So many people are concerned. So many people have family pressures and all kinds of other things. It's time for us to open up about it and start to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
for sure.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Guys.
Thanks,
Cheers, man.
everybody. All right,
Thanks.
there's Alex and Dr. Shamista. And Lebang, thanks for being with us on the show this morning. We will see you on your
Thank you
own
for the
show.
invite. Yes, tomorrow from 11 till 12, Life with Lebang. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to be unpacking something so relevant to every single South African. So definitely tune in. Otherwise, listen to the podcast at your own time.
Go and look after the children now. They're all right. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Lebang.
Cheers. Bye.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 6:00 bright and early.